Thank you for having me here today. Um, I'm going to share with you my journey in creating Kobo Toolbox. Is digital data collection platforms and management software. I'm going to make two assumptions in making this presentation. One is that we still need to collect primary data or ground truth data. And then two is that we can make AI accessible in low and middle income countries. And then I have one warning, which is that I'm married to a person who loves to draw. And so he provided some treatments to the slides. Oops, sorry. So 15 years ago, we often collect data in conflict countries. So we, get called in right after conflicts, and we need to do an assessment on looking at the impact of conflict on health. And people need the data really, really fast. At that time, we would, I don't know how many of you still lug around a tape recorder. This is back in the early 2000s. And 2000s, where we still have, to lug our tape recorders, make bunch of copies of questionnaires, and then have to manually transcribe and translate those questionnaires, and digitally enter them into a database. So it would take us about a year to get the data back to our practitioner colleagues. And so, this is fine in terms of academic timeline, but for policymakers and practitioners, it's too late. The data is already old. And so, after our experience in Iraq in 2003, we started looking into digital data collection platform, especially in places where there are language barriers and low internet connection. So we developed Kobo Toolbox. And I was really happy with it because now all of our data are in one place. We can have a form that have audio recording and also structure questions, right? But still the process is still very cumbersome, right? You have the audio recorder, but you still now have to transcribe those tapes and then oftentimes translate those data. And that process still takes about 6 months to a year time, especially if you work on a language that is a local dialect, and it's not one of the common languages. And how many of you still process qualitative data and quantitative data separately and manually? Right? I think a lot of us who still do that. So this is still, even with the integrations and all of that, it has made it more efficient for us. We now have made the software available to public and in open source, and we have about now 6 million submissions every month in every single country of the world. And most of the places that use our software is actually places in conflicts or humanitarian crisis. And so we're really happy with the progress, but we're still trying to make this process a little bit more efficient. So we're looking into natural languages, and we have been researching on ways to make sure, see how, right now, if you open your iPhone, right, and you have a voicemail, it can transcribe your transcript, right? So what we want to do is, in our database system, no longer distinguish between structure or structured data, just record the data as if you were just doing natural interviews, have that automatically transcribe, translate using natural languages, and have those data sort into a structured database, analyze those, and make it more accessible to all of the researcher around the world. So this phase, I think, is really feasible. The technology is there. Whether we can make it accessible in low and middle income country will be our challenge. I think the second, sorry, I'm keep on clicking the wrong slides. The second part is, as part of our journey in developing this technology, we've also created another project, a program with MIT called Data Pop Alliances, where we try to bring in big data into the primary data platform. And so we're experimenting that with doing crime data predictions in Colombia, where we would have data from telephone companies, police stations, governments, and then ground truth data sets, and merge it all into one and actually do some predictive analytic on where crimes are located. And so we think this is possible, and we think we can build the technology that would be able to store all these data and analyze it. It's just a matter of time to get there. Again, making this more accessible to other people to use it. I think even if we did make this accessible, I think power, politics, and privacy would still be an issue for us to deal with. The crime data project that I was telling you about, it took us nearly 2 years just to get access to some of the data sets that we have. And the primary data collection wasn't the step determining factors in the data collection process. Is actually the big data that was the problem. And so even if we have the software available and made it more accessible in these countries, accessibility will still be a problem. Thank you.